Bit of a media firestorm tonight after ESPN gives anchor Jamel Hill little more than a slap on the wrist for accusing President Trump of being unfit for office, a bigot, and a white supremacist, and more. The sports network's reaction to Ms. Hill is very different from how they treated others who are on-air talent with different views. Trace Gallagher joins us in our West Coast newsroom tonight with the backstory here. Hi, Trace.
Hi, Martha. You know, we found at least a dozen examples of what critics call ESPN's liberal bias. But for this story, we'll stick to the apples-to-apples argument of how ESPN treats its employees following controversial comments, like conservative baseball announcer Curt Schilling, who spoke out against Muslim extremists, Hillary Clinton, and transgender bathrooms and was summarily fired, though in fairness, Schilling had been warned. But when SportsCenter host Linda Cohen said during a radio show that her network had become too political, ESPN President John Skipper personally told her not to show up for work that day. Then this week, SportsCenter host Jamel Hill posted this, quote, "Donald Trump is a white supremacist who has largely surrounded himself with other white supremacists. And Trump is the most ignorant, offensive president of my lifetime. His rise is a direct result of white supremacy, period." ESPN responded, quoting, "The comments on Twitter from Jamel Hill regarding the president do not represent the position of ESPN. We have addressed this with Jamel, and she recognizes her actions were inappropriate." The White House took that as an underreaction. Watch.
I'm not sure if he's aware, but I think that's one of the more outrageous comments that anyone could make, and certainly something that I think is a fireable offense by ESPN.
Interesting that in 2016, Jamel Hill also weighed in on the Curt Schilling firing, saying, quote, "ESPN is in an uncomfortable position. They don't want to suppress anyone's beliefs, but some would say you can say that, but Curt Schilling got fired. But the values Curt Schilling was trying to promote didn't line up with what ESPN wants to be as a company." Critics say it's now very clear what ESPN wants to be as a company. We should note ESPN reportedly tried to stop Hill from appearing on her show Wednesday, but her co-host and fill-in host would not appear without her. ESPN denies that story. Martha.
Thank you, Trace. So joining us now, MediaBuzz host Howard Kurtz. Howie, good evening. Good to have you here.
Hi, Martha.
What's your take on this?
Well, ESPN has become a liberal network that happens to cover sports. I mean, Curt Schilling says a couple of controversial things, one strike and he's out. Jamel Hill mounts a racially inflammatory diatribe against Donald Trump, and that's just inappropriate. I'm sorry, inappropriate is when you use the wrong salad fork. This is off the charts outrageous, and it seems to me that ESPN, the bigger outrage is that ESPN, no disciplinary action, no apology from her or the network, wasn't even a slap on the wrist, even though Jamel Hill probably alienated potentially half of the audience that doesn't despise Donald Trump.
So you think she should be fired for this?
I don't want to come out and say that. I do think that ESPN, this is a huge fumble not to do something, at least, you know, insist on an apology. That was a really milquetoast statement. And there's a long history here, including the network during the campaign, moving a celebrity golf tournament from Donald Trump's California golf course. And by the way, Martha, most of the mainstream media basically ignored this story until Sarah Sanders from the White House podium said it was a firing offense.
No doubt there's a lot of ESPN viewers who are Trump supporters. I mean, you know, you would think that that would hit home with the folks in the high office at ESPN.
Or who just want sports from the sports network and not political diatribes.
Yeah. I want to show you something from The View here, because there's also a double standard that appears to exist with their evaluation of presidential marriages. Watch this.
Many Republicans have been very critical of your staying in your marriage. What is your response? Why did you stay in your marriage? People say, oh, they have an arrangement. Yeah, it's called a marriage. And
I've got one of those. Me too.
I think it's time that we really try to support people in their decisions and give them more understanding and compassion.
And mind their own business.
And to mind their own business.
What's their relationship like? So is she suffering from Stockholm syndrome?
She's more of a hostage.
He's got her as like a hostage up in this Trump tower over here. She's like Rapunzel. Let down your hair, Melania.
Boy, that's pretty rough stuff, Howie. As Hillary Clinton says, you know, don't you think it's a nice idea to have respect for people's relationships and, you know, to understand that there's a privacy and a respect for a marriage?
Look, everyone knows The View only has one token conservative, but this reeks of a double standard. You know, Republicans are criticizing Hillary Clinton's marriage, which she wrote about in her book, obviously, and that's terrible. And then to take those kind of pot shots at Melania Trump and the Trump marriage, you know, there's not even sort of an effort at any kind of balance. And if you're going to take the position that it's none of our business and it's their private lives, then how about equally applying it to the current president of the United States?
Yeah, I for one was sort of hoping that Melania Trump would get off the plane today with big high heels just to sort of throw it back in that, but she looked great, as she always does, and she had her sneakers on today. That was such a stupid story. Howie, thank you very much.